Hi everyone, I'm Jo Fry and this is my channel Jojo Fry Rocks, and in this video I'm going to be talking about something that I'm going to call guilty displeasures. So, the usual thing is about guilty pleasures where people kind of confess to liking things that they think are actually a bit naff or funny, or that people might sort of jibe or take the mickey out of them for liking, things that you wouldn't expect them to like. Well, most of the music that I like it's most other people's sort of guilty pleasure. So, that is my musical taste. Kind of hair rock, hair metal, sort of 80s rock, bands like The Darkness. Probably the 90s grunge stuff doesn't fall under that category. But, a lot of the things that I like probably do. So there's very little point in me talking about that. I don't have any guilty pleasures. I don't feel bad or guilty in the slightest about any of the music that I like. I actually have quite eclectic musical taste in general. I like a lot of genres, a lot of different styles of music above and beyond rock and guitar music. I love pop. As I was growing up, my parents had a lot of pop records, so things like ABBA, Elton John, and a lot of kind of singer-songwriter stuff, like kind of Carly Simon records, who I absolutely love. I think she's got an incredible voice and she's an absolute genius. Carole King, The Carpenters, Simon and Garfunkel, all these kind of things were a big influence on me growing up. And growing up in the 80s, of course, as a kid, pop music was huge, really. And you had the king of pop, Michael Jackson, who I absolutely loved. His album Bad was one of the first albums that I ever had on cassette. I think I was about 8 years old when I first got a Walkman and headphones. And I remember the little cassette with Michael Jackson looking absolutely awesome in his leather biker jacket and stuff. And I loved that album. Kim Wilde as well. I loved her. I loved Blondie. Basically kind of any female lead singer with massive hair and loads of makeup. Actually, that applies to probably all the 80s rock bands as well. So yeah, anyone with massive hair and loads of makeup seemed to appeal to me for some reason. So yeah, for me, there's no such thing as a guilty pleasure. Where I feel guilty, I suppose, and this has kind of come up in a few things that I've done recently where, people have commented and said, this such a person is an underrated guitarist, and it will be a band I've never heard of. Or, such a person in this band is similar to Kurt, or similar to another person or thing that I've been talking about in signature guitar models. You'll have told me about a signature model of a person and I've never heard of them. And it's sort of made me realise that in terms of guitar music, guitar-based rock, or, just guitar-based music, there's so much that I don't know about, have never heard of, or maybe I've heard of, but I've never actually listened to any of their music. So I've heard of a lot of bands because they're quite famous, like Steely Dan, right? There's an example where I hear about them and read about them a lot. Never heard a single Steely Dan song. I don't know even what genre it is. I don't know what they play. So I think the thing that I feel more guilty about is either stuff that I've never come across and not listened to, but as a guitarist, as someone who is interested in and likes guitar-based music, I feel like I really should. I feel like there's a real kind of gap in my knowledge. But the kind of even worse, I suppose, guilty displeasures part of it is where I've kind of, in my mind, written off entire genres of guitar-based, or primarily guitar-based music, probably just because I once heard a band of that genre or that style that I didn't like, I didn't appreciate, and it's put me off, and I've never listened to anything else since, and I've just made an assumption that I'm not going to like it. So, for example, I always say that I don't like prog. I don't like prog rock. I'm not into prog rock. And I think this is on the basis of having been made to listen to a Rush album. And actually, I was also made to watch the Rush film, that documentary thing. And I'm sorry, but that was one of the most boring experiences of my life. I will never get those hours back. And honestly, I think it's probably Geddy Lee's vocals that I can't listen to. It's like nails down a blackboard. I'm really sorry, Rush fans. I know there are so many people that love them and think they're just the greatest. That voice, I can't. I'm sorry. And also the politics went a bit weird, and like all the Ayn Rand stuff, like that's not for me. But yeah, I feel like that has sort of put me off of exploring any prog rock, really, which just seems silly. Like I've heard a few Pink Floyd songs because everybody has, right? And I'm kind of, I'm not sure why, but they just didn't really do anything for me. I loved the Scissor Sisters version of Comfortably Numb. I thought that was awesome. And, when I listened to the Pink Floyd original, I just can't help feeling like, oh, this isn't quite the same without the kind of disco beat in the background. It's just a little bit kind of yawn. Sacrilege, I know, right? So I think what I probably need to do is to try to revisit some of this stuff, and try to kind of appreciate what it is that people like about it, and have a listen to kind of some more of Pink Floyd's stuff, because with all bands, that you can't really get a proper sense of what they do when you've only listened to kind of maybe 2 or 3 of their songs. So I would like to kind of revisit some of that, and maybe try listening to some other kind of prog bands, like I've never really listened to any Genesis stuff, or even kind of bringing it slightly more up to date, but bands like Tool I hear a lot about. Again, don't know, haven't heard their stuff. Dream Theater, I like the Winery Dogs, So I know that Mike Portnoy is an incredible drummer, certainly, but I've never listened to any Dream Theater. So in a kind of similar vein, I suppose, I think there are some other genres as well that I've completely written off and I don't even know very much about, like jazz, for example. And I know for a fact there are some awesome guitarists, awesome jazz guitarists that I've never heard and never listened to, just because I don't know, I just have this feeling that I don't like jazz. And I don't even know where that's come from. I mean, I like things that are jazz adjacent. You know, I like blues, I like funk. I love kind of the kind of funk stuff that, like, everything that Prince did, for example. I think some of the stuff that Richie Kotzen does is quite jazz adjacent, if nothing else. You know, it's got this kind of funk rock fusion style, and he does these kind of long jams in his live performances. So I kind of feel like I wonder if there is something that I might actually really love and that I just haven't bothered trying to kind of broaden my musical tastes and give it a listen. So any suggestions for any of these things would be really welcome. So I'm definitely going to look into prog rock, jazz, death metal. That's another one on this list where when I was younger, when I was at university, so that was kind of like late 90s, early 2000s, it was quite a big thing in music. It was kind of, I think, taking off at that point, or maybe it had already taken off. But one of my friends was massively into death metal, and I just couldn't take it seriously. Like, just the names of the bands and like the album covers of his CDs that he had, I just thought it was kind of hilarious, and I didn't even know whether you were meant to take it seriously. So I didn't really know how to feel about it, and it didn't feel, I don't know, I listened to a bit of it, and like Cradle of Filth, Cannibal Corpse, things like that, and I couldn't get into it. I just don't feel like it I couldn't really connect with it. Like, I just didn't get it. So, you know, given that this has actually had quite an enduring appeal, and it's still huge now. Again, am I missing something? Probably. So again, any suggestions that you have would be really, really welcome, and I'll go and have a listen and check some stuff out. Another genre, an entire genre really, that I feel quite bad that I don't know more about, and this really kind of hit me while I was doing my Kurt video, is punk. I actually know very little about punk and punk rock and hardcore. I obviously know a bit of British punk, Sex Pistols, obviously, and they're cool. Obviously they are. And the Ramones, so the kind of American popular, like, well-known punk bands. And again, I like the Ramones, they're cool. But I don't know, all these bands that it certainly influenced Nirvana. People bring up things that I've heard the name of, like suicidal tendencies. I've heard that because I've done a lot of reading about Nirvana, but I don't know their music. I've never heard any of their music. I just feel like that's a massive gap in my knowledge of guitar music, and I kind of need to address that. So, yeah, any suggestions for British or American punk bands would be really welcome. And the other, so I was saying to myself, right, how many of these things am I can't possibly cover the entire sort of spectrum of all genres of music. But the other one that I think I probably need to have a bit more of a delve into is sort of nu metal. I know the big bands. Obviously, I know sort of Linkin Park, and kind of a bit of Limp Bizkit, but I can't get past the whole Fred Durst thing. Like, he is just so difficult to like that I really struggle to actually listen to their music. But I have been told that, I really should, because Wes Borland is a great guitarist. Maybe Papa Roach, bands like that I've not really listened to kind of at all. And it's not, I don't know, I just think I didn't connect with it at the time. And then The Darkness came along, which sounded like everything that I used to like, from the 80s. And I thought, this is what I like, this is what I'm into. And, that sort of revived my interest in playing the guitar and wanting to be in a band and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, then I just sort of thought, oh great, I don't have to listen to this nu metal stuff now. From sort of 2003 onwards. So yeah, I probably need to go back and revisit some of that. And it all seems to be having a bit of a moment. It seems to be having a bit of a revival, and maybe it's just that whole 20-year cycle that, things start cropping up again. These bands are kind of touring again. So now would probably be a good time to do that. But yeah, I would really welcome your suggestions, ideas, and input on this. And what I'm planning to do is to do like a series of 5 videos where I look into each one of these genres. So kind of prog, jazz, death metal, punk, and nu metal. And try to kind of find some bands or some albums or songs that I like, and actually try to learn to play kind of some of the riffs or solos or songs from these genres, just more than anything else, to try to challenge myself in terms of my playing, and move on from things that I've been playing and practicing for a really long time. Try to do something new, something different, and yeah, just kind of inspire myself to to go in a different direction. And there could be any number of things that come out of it. Maybe I'll discover a love of Tool or something, and start kind of writing prog tunes. Who knows? But it feels like I really should step outside of of my box and, you know, challenge some of these assumptions and prejudices and really engage with some things that I've not really kind of got my head around before. So yeah, that's what I'm hoping to do. I will need your help to do it. So please leave me some comments and suggestions and ideas, and I will get cracking on it. Great, thanks everyone.
Hey, Howard. Howard. Boy, Small Eyes. He's in a trance, a jazz trance. Every day he does this. It's a pretty delicate procedure getting him out.
Ah! Ah! Don't do that, ever.
Why?
Never do that to a man when he's in a jazz trance.
Why?
I could have a heart attack. It's like sleepwalking. I was deep in the juju then. I was chasing the train.
So what? Why don't you try doing some work?
I'm going to get round to my work, aren't I?
Oh, yeah.
This is my early morning procedure. Listen to my jazz, get myself juiced up, and then go about my business.
No, you don't. You put your jazz on, go into a trance, 6:10, come out the trance, go to the pub. That's your day.
Have you got anything you could be doing, perhaps? Distributing seeds among the hoofed mammals, maybe?
Yeah, I'm onto it,
Well,
because
go
I
about
started
it.
my day with this. Check this out.
That is just making me feel physically sick. What is that gloomy racket?
That's the Human League.
That is electro-nonsense.
They're electro pioneers. They invented music.
Invented music?
Yeah.
What happened before then?
It was just tuning up before then.
Are you aware of the music known as jazz? Are you aware of jazz music, the movement of jazz?
Why do you keep going on about jazz for?
Because it's the most important art form in the 20th century.
No one listens to jazz. Science teachers and the mentally ill, that's all jazz is for.
You better take that back, you electro-ponce.
Or what?
You better just take it back, that's all.
I won't be taking that back. I'll be leaving it out there for all to see.
Drink it back up.
No, I hate jazz.
You hate jazz?
Yeah.
You fear jazz. Huh? Ah,
Shut
yeah.
your mouth.
Yeah, you fear jazz, don't you?
No, I don't.
You fear the lack of rules.
No.
The lack of boundaries. Oh, it's a fence. No, it's soft. Ah! What's happening? The shapes, the chaos. Huh? Has to be simple nursery
Stop
rhymes
it.
for you, doesn't it?
Stop the evil.
Simple little dee-dee-dee-dee-dee.
Shut your mouth,
The melody gets
Howard.
abstract. You mess your trousers and run to your mummy.
Shut your mouth.
Huh? Dee-bop. Scoop-up.
Don't start scatting.
Beep-up.
We don't need scat at this point.
Beep-a-dee-bop-ow.
You better stop scatting.
Scoot-up-a-doo-bop-a-dee.
This is your final warning.
Squiddly-beep. Scat, squat.